And there were the people saying, "Oh, this is awful. This is, you're never going to get a woman. You must have to deal with blow-up dolls. You're so dumb. Blah 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 blah. This is so misogynistic." And on and on and on and on it goes. Now, this is something that I found particularly interesting, and the reason I find it very interesting is because it's just in light of what's been going on for the past few years, and also what's been going on over the past few weeks. So, one thing that I have learned in life, a difficult lesson for me to learn, was to not accept the premise or the narrative of assholes. So I followed a lot of what was going on during Gamergate. I followed a lot of what Anita Sarkeesian was saying about online harassment, about people making fun of you, about people messaging you these terrible messages, and when you're popular, getting harassed even more, these terrible messages. I watched as these anti-harassment groups grew and grew and grew in their advocacy and activism. I also have been keeping track of what's been going on over the past week with the Jordan Peterson and Kathy Newman interview. Jordan Peterson was interviewed by Kathy Newman on the subject of feminism. He was taken out of context, would be the mild way to put it, very, very often during this 30-minute interview. There are people that actually created counters for it. You can find it if you Google it. And he was taken out of context many, many times. And he didn't curse. He didn't get angry or mad or rage or... He just answered every single one of the questions and provided his own points. There was a lot of criticism because the manner in which the interview was conducted, in my opinion and the opinions of hundreds of thousands of other people, was that it was in very poor taste. You can disagree, but to put words in someone else's mouth repeatedly is offensive and just a bad way to have a discussion about a sensitive issue. So there were a lot of people that expressed that this is something that they were dissatisfied with. And what happened was something that I've noticed a pattern happening with people who believe that group identity matters above all. What I noticed within those circles of people that believe group identity is the king, or the queen, I should say, is that when criticized for saying something that is really not well researched or not in great taste, they will play the victim. And you saw this happen. You saw this happen you saw this happen on a large scale with them saying, "We are calling the police. We are having people investigate these threats. We have never gotten threats like this. Look at all the comments we're getting. Read the comments we're getting." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is really bad." So I'm reading through the comments and I'm thinking to myself, I get worse on YouTube every single day. I get death threats in my mail. I get glitter bombs at my office. I have people calling with all sorts of odd death threats. There are people that have claimed to know where I live. If my cell phone number gets out, I change it. This is what happens when you create content on the internet, regardless of your group identity. And there doesn't seem to be much of an understanding of this. But what I hear from that group, what seems to be a predominant part of the conversation, is that harassment is wrong. Harassment is a vice. Harassment is something that makes you a non-virtuous human being. That's what I hear. And then when I look at the practices of some of the groups that believe in this, I'm looking at comments that are, at their core, very, very hurtful. And you particularly notice this from some of the women that were commenting on Linus's video. They don't just criticize. They go for the jugular. They go to stab with comments that are focused primarily on his ability to procreate. There were comments, and I don't remember exactly. I'll find them and put them in while I'm editing. There were these comments on how you're going to have to get used to a blow-up doll, or clearly spoken like somebody who's never gotten laid, or somebody who can't get laid, or somebody who can't have sex. And when I say that is on a much higher level, when I say going for the jugular, what I mean is that is an insult at the lowest possible level of the structure. At the lowest possible level, meaning the support of the structure of the human being. That is what you're attacking very, very viciously when you make those comments. Because when you think about what it is we do in life, when you think about everything that we're here for, when you think about what drives us, it's all about procreation. We want to be in shape so that we can have a high self-image. We have a high self-image with being in shape or being healthy, because being healthy is a marker to others that want to procreate as well, that we would be a good choice to procreate with because we're healthy. That's why we see things, that's why the jawbone being the way it is, or a man having the figure that Bruce Wayne does in Batman, or women having the figures that a lot of men like, the certain features with the breasts and the hips and all that. The reason that we find all that attractive even if we don't want to have kids, is because we're wired to have kids, and that's something that is beneficial when you have kids. The man. There is a reason that we find these things attractive. We aspire to do better in our industry so that we can attain better status, so that we can be with people and have children with people of better status. We try to make more money so that we can buy things like cars that we can use to take people out on dates. We strive to make more money so that we can have our own apartments or homes, so that we're not living with our parents, so that we can have sex, so that we can procreate. We want to buy large houses so that we can have kids in those houses. Like almost everything that we do is to procreate, is to move our genetic line forward, is to ensure that our genetic line is not lost and gone with the wind once we're dead. We look for these things, markers of health, markers of fitness, markers of status, markers of stability, and we value them because they mean that you will be someone who is most likely going to help me produce and a better offspring and be there to raise those offspring and provide for them. This is what we do. And the desire to procreate is incredibly, incredibly strong. You just look at something like the praying mantis. That when the praying mantis has sex, the woman at the end of sex will kill him and eat him alive. You'll see these videos on YouTube where after they're done, like the woman just starts eating the praying mantis's head. And he knows this is going to happen. He has to know this is going to happen. They have to talk to one another somehow. And he still does it because the desire to procreate and pass on your genetic line is that strong. And it is that damning to us when we feel that we are unable to do that. So when you attack somebody by saying things like, you are, clearly this person can never have sex with anybody, or clearly you're going to be with a blow-up doll for the rest of your life. When you make those types of comments, it's not just a basic criticism. It is a knife to the jugular of the basic support structure of that person's dignity. And you have to ask yourself, if a group is talking about how online harassment is so bad, if you criticize in this manner, we will view that as harassment, which we view as bad, which we view as hate, which we view as something that should get you in trouble, then you need to look at that group's own behavior. So what I've learned in life is to reject the premise of assholes. So you care about harassment. You care about people being treated poorly. You care when Trump says something like, I didn't harass this person. Believe me, look at them. When he makes those types of sexual comments, which I will admit are